Hello, I am Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to Impossible Mission. And I never nearly forgot how to introduce this show. Shut up, you did. Anyhow, today, I guess it's timely. You know, we did a recent episode about the end of console wars. But there's another question which has arose, specifically from the Halo. What is a next-gen game?
Yeah, what makes a next-gen game?
The reason why you bring this up as a talking point is because so many of the people on the internet, idiot YouTubers, yes, I'm just all guns blazing today, idiot YouTubers have said that it doesn't look like a next-gen game, as if there's a measurable metric for what next-gen means.
Wow. You're really gunning for them today, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So next-gen on its own means something else entirely.
Well,
now, so
let's start at the beginning, right? Because that's usually a good place to start. The concept of next gen is a mutable thing, right? It changes over time. So what's next gen now is not. I mean, every single console generation we have next gen games. Those are the new games coming out on the new console. Every single console generation.
Well, going back, there's like what was measurable metrics. I mean, the 8-bit era, when you went to the 16-bit era, it was like, wow, this is a major step up. The amount of detail, lines of graphics, sound quality, this, that.
Yeah.
Then 64-bit, then 32-bit and 64-bit were kind of concurrent. It was a weird generation, that one.
Yeah.
And then it was jumping up to CDs and the changes that you could get with CDs, and then you got Blu-ray discs. I think that's the more measurable metric of next gen. It's format rather than
you missed out
content.
You missed out DVD in the middle there. But yeah, I got what you meant.
I meant DVD because they did have games on CD. Could you imagine that? It'd be like, listen to track 2. No, but that's not how games work, Rob.
This is the thing.
I got that wrong. Sorry.
This is the thing, right? With games, the most visible representation of how a game has changed from one generation to the next are the graphics. But the problem with that is that with later consoles, from like the PlayStation 2 bleeding into the PlayStation 3, bleeding into the PlayStation 4, and the same with the Xbox into the 360, into the Xbox One, maybe not so much on the Nintendo side. You could still do things with the Wii, but the Wii U was kind of... it was a bit of a strange console, but what you had was late-age PlayStation 2 graphics, like the graphics for Final Fantasy XII, were very similar to early-age PlayStation 3 graphics.
And not just early age, I'd say like the first 2 years.
Yeah.
After about 2 years, it was that major game which was like, wow, this is what the new machine means.
Yeah. Whereas late-stage PlayStation 3 games were very similar to early-stage PlayStation 4 games.
Well, I mean, word it another way, before it was like massive peaks where the change were.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like just a steady climb as graphics get better. It's not like jumps and leaps and bounds. It's just a gentle incline. If you're using it as like as a line chart sort of idea.
Yeah. See, the problem with using graphics as a representation of next-gen games is that eventually you'll reach a plateau because your eye can only handle so much detail.
I mean, now what we're talking about is not graphics, it's frame rate.
Yeah.
It's speed of loading. They're like the big two metrics, but we're jumping ahead a little bit there. We'll come to that later on.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not including indie games in this because indie games, they often use 8-bit, 16-bit graphics. And I'm not commenting on the quality of those graphics because some of them do look remarkably good, and some of them.
Yeah, I mean, Children of Mortar, that was a good looking one.
Yeah,
and there's others that I could probably cite, but yeah, agreed.
So I'm going to put those to one side. But in terms of mainstream development, I think that graphics have reached the point where you can't really say the graphics of a particular game make it next gen. I think that. Now, with the coming consoles, I think that the graphical capabilities of the consoles are so powerful now that they've basically just plateaued.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea, the thought just came in my head there, where the idea that something doesn't look next gen.
Yeah.
It's basically talking about AAA games.
Yeah.
And that all video games have to look like AAA games.
But why?
And all video games have to push forward the technological advancements of what's impossible with graphics.
Yeah, but if you...
Which is discounting smaller games. I mean, I was reading an article, I think it was on Push Square.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who basically said of the recent PlayStation conference, one at the 6th of August, that all of the games looked like average indie games. I just like AAA games. Like, those are two very different genres. Like, a AAA is a type of game, which a type of audience... But it's true, because he is kind of common for a lot of people. Whereas AAA is what pushes graphics forward, is what a certain type of gamer wants.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you want a game that really pushes graphics forward and really, increases the kind of level of detail and the graphical quality and stuff like that, and you're willing to just ignore things like frame rate and stuff like that, then just play a walking simulator. Because the graphical detail in a walking simulator is going to be much better than the graphical detail in, say, a first-person shooter.
Because it brings up so many more questions, because honestly, I think it's getting to a point now where we could improve the graphics like exponentially, game on game, so on console, but at the same time, it's cost.
Yeah.
And we've seen all of these articles all over the internet about how EA or Activision have to have heavily monetized strategies because it's the only way they can make money, because games cost so much to make, which isn't entirely true. I mean, it is like a major corporation. They're not going to be totally honest when it comes to how they make money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is true in the sense that games do cost more money and more time to make.
Yeah.
So instead of bankrupting themselves on increasingly risky projects, other types of technology become more prominent in the development of games. So games can be made quicker than, I don't know, doing Uncharted 5 and it basically looks like all the characters are real. There's other ways to make a game next gen beyond that, is what I'm getting at. Long way around of saying that.
Yeah. I think with these games...
Just on that, it is a Sunday, so I'm not 100% form here, sorry.
Yeah. I think with these games, one of the things that we need to be careful of with next gen games is this whole idea that you can encapsulate and quantify the actual the essence of what makes a game next generation or not.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's possible with things like games and the changing nature of technology. It's like saying, I'm going to be the same person tomorrow as I am today. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I can understand an essence of it because it's a technology. It's a very visual technology gaming.
Yeah.
So the idea that it's improving must be synonymous with the graphics, because it's like the most immediate thing. You don't say to judge a book by the graphics, but apparently it's okay to judge a game by it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. You're judging it by its cover.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I know when you look at the other aspects of a game, I'm going to use the Atelier games as an example here, because the Atelier games are a great. Just follow me on this. They are actually a great example of how a game franchise has developed over time and with the generations, right? So when you look at the first Atelier games, like Atelier Marie and Atelier Ellie on, I think it was the SNES and the PlayStation 1, when you look at those, they're very 16-bit graphics and isometric stuff like that. And then you look at the Atelier games that came out on the PlayStation 2, again, isometric, but much better graphics, much more colourful, more storyline, bigger game, right? And then you had the Atelier games on the PlayStation 3, where it was 3D environments, anime-style talking heads graphics, but you could run around and you could explore things in like a 3D environment. But here's the key thing, none of those were open world, right? Whereas the modern Atelier games on the PlayStation 4, the latest ones, have been much more open world. I'm not including Nelke and the Legendary Alchemists in that. That was a town building game. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the graphics have got better progressively over the generations. The actual game itself has got better over the generations. And when you look at the actual... because it went from simple talking heads with no voices to talking heads with voices to actual 3D characters with facial expressions, and then to open world. Do you see what I mean? So it's the elements of the game itself that are making it next generation, not just the graphical quality.
You made me think of something there, which is kind of, again, it's another industry thing, but it's the way it's going now. Having this thing with a lot of the early announcements of a lot of games that are going to be on the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 is you can either have it high frame rate or 4K.
Yeah.
But you can't have it both. And the reason why I bring that up is because that is kind of the way that games are going. I mean, let's look at like the size of the game world, for example.
Yeah.
You can have it's a super big game world, or you can have really good graphics, but you very rarely can have both.
I'll be honest.
The only times you can have both is when you have like a monster budget.
I'll be honest. For me, right? If the game world is populated and has all sorts of things to explore and stuff like that, I'd go for the super big game world because it'd keep me busy for longer.
Yeah, but I mean, look at Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed might seem like the biggest budgeted game in the world, but it doesn't look that great, does it?
No,
honestly, it doesn't look that great. So they're prioritizing game world and content in that game world over what it looks like.
Yeah,
but it's still next gen because of what they're doing within that.
Yeah, but
game world.
It does come back to what I said about walking simulators versus first-person shooters. See, when you're in a walking simulator, the game travels at a much slower pace. Yeah, you're not running around frantically shooting people in the head. And so,
there's less demands on in a game engine.
There's less demands on the game engine, but that means you can basically have greater graphical detail as you're moving around because you're going to notice more detail because you're moving at a slower pace. Whereas if you're playing a fast-paced first-person shooter, you can get away with graphical shortcuts to speed the game up. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at take an example of the actual game. The recent trailer for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah.
Pure, second to second gameplay. Graphically, it is absolutely no better than the one on PlayStation 4.
No.
But particle effects and loading between different worlds, that's where the next gen status of that one's achieved. The medium is much the same. The Xbox title. Each of the selling point is, as mentioned on previous shows, and you've probably seen yourself, it's two separate worlds are rendered simultaneously, so they're playing out at the same time, although what one you're in control of changes whenever you want it to.
Yeah.
Great idea. The technology behind that must be very difficult.
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
visually, neither of them looks that special. They look kind of not much better than the Evil Within 2, sort of Resident Evil 2. That sort of level. But the technology behind them, the systems behind them, most definitely next gen. So the question then becomes, do they focus on the super high-tech, super graphics, or the things that improve the quality of the game behind the surface? Which is, I think, the question for next gen going forward. Which asks interesting questions of things and technologies that weren't quite at that point of hitting the mainstream. And the thing I'm talking about here is this sort of technology is going to really help in the ongoing conversation of VR.
Yeah.
Because I think VR was graphically the VR games weren't great, let's be honest, on the PlayStation 4 VR, the PSVR.
Well,
but I think
not just the PSVR.
And also the actual device. There's been lots of people complaining about the fact that you can't really get into it because it's full of wires, and you always feel tethered to the world. So you don't really feel free enough to be in true VR.
Are you on about the PlayStation 5 or the PSVR? Sorry,
PSVR, yeah.
Because there's like the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift as well, but
they're much better because they're like hands-free, so to speak. But yeah, I think with all these ideas, that the engines and the systems that are going into games to make them quicker to load, frame rate this, frame rate that, all of that will feed into developments on aspects of gaming which didn't really hit. Because you always talk about that when they were talking about PSVR in particular, that there wasn't that killer app.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing, right?
And these sorts of technologies, 4K, high frame rate resolution, this sort of stuff will help in that killer app, I think.
Well, see, this is where I differ slightly from the usual VR fan, let's say, because I like VR. I think VR has a lot of potential in terms of gaming, in terms of entertainment, because you can immerse yourself in the story. You become more the character than you ever could be on, just in a normal games console, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pure. It's very different, like sitting like 10 foot away from a TV and having the TV effectively strapped to your face.
Yeah. But this is the thing, right? I think that from that perspective, your brain can only process so much information, right? And with VR...
Yeah, I mean, it's like frame rate, sorry.
Yeah.
Just that point. Your eyes can only see so much. I think it was not much more than 60, and then it's all the same, basically.
Yeah, and that's why I don't understand these high refresh rate things, because, after 65, I think it is, that's it. You're basically
it's surprisingly
done.
low.
Yeah, it's low, but I mean... And people who say that they can detect it, maybe they've just got, better eyes than other people. But that's it. Most people, it's around 65.
I mean, I think a lot throwing a lot of people under the bus, like I think is the theme from earlier in the episode. A lot of people are just, blowing smoke out their ass. They try to claim the things that they're not.
Yeah.
Can do things that they're not.
I was trying to be nice.
It's no different than the kids on the playground saying, my uncle works at Nintendo.
What?
It's basically a bit more older version of that.
Hang on. Did you say works or lurks?
I think the latter is probably more close to the reality, to be honest.
But anyway, we're talking about VR, right? One of the things that I love about the whole idea of VR is just the fact that, everyone talks about the Star Trek holodeck, yeah?
It is a next-gen technology, let's be fair.
Yeah, it is a next-gen technology, but everyone talks about the Star Trek holodeck when they talk about VR. And, oh, yes, I want a holodeck. Look at this VR system. And I just keep thinking, okay, yeah, fine. Read some science fiction. Read some science fiction from other countries, They also have their own version of VR in which they create worlds that millions of players across the planet play against each other. By things like that, I'm talking about games like Satisfy from Overgeared or Royal Road from the legendary Moonlight Sculptor. Things like that, where you have these online games that are VR games. So imagine if players who played League of Legends could actually inhabit the characters that they played in League of Legends.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting riff. I mean, was that a trailer for Hitman VR, which I think is true next gen out of the box thinking.
Yeah, see,
because that's essentially what it is. Next gen is basically moving the medium forward.
Yeah. Hitman VR, I think, is a real step forward for Hitman, because I think Hitman is one of the few franchises that really would benefit from VR.
Because that is essentially what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Next gen is moving the industry forward by thinking out the box.
Yeah. Thinking, outside the box, but pressed up right against the outside of the box isn't really thinking outside the box.
Yeah, pushing the box forward by pressing so hard on your face that it sort of scuts forward.
Yeah.
It's moving the industry forward. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have a really sore face if you keep it up for too long.
Yeah. I honestly think with this new generation, VR, if they give it a proper chance and actually think of developing VR games in ways that have never been done before. Because one of the biggest problems...
Just on that, I think making actual games rather than little digestible experiences.
Yeah, exactly. See, one of the problems I've had with VR gaming so far is that they always look at this as an experience. It's something...
Or party games.
Yeah, it's an experience or a party game. It's something that you must play, you must experience this. But no one ever said, you must enjoy this. You must be entertained by it,
I mean, as far as I understand, there's only been a few actually good games. There's that Astro bot. There's a good platformer on VR for that. What was that? Blood and something? It was a shooter.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Then it'll be on the screen now. And I know it's in the back of my head somewhere. But
Beat Saber was really popular as a rhythm action game.
It's like, yeah. My point is, next gen... Just to sum up, next gen is totally changing its stripes. I think I know it's not exclusively on the loading times, but when Phil Spencer said jumping from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X will be jumping from 2D to 3D, I honestly think that was the last generation. If you think about it in truly next-gen thinking, 3D is the next generation of 2D, because different levels of graphics 3D, different frame rates 3D, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just 3D, just different presentations of it.
See, if he'd said that you're jumping from 3D to 4D, so time becomes a factor, right?
Well, maybe it's a bit highfalutin, but...
Well, no, because if
you get what I mean.
Well, no, because that's essentially what Sony was saying with theirs. Their SSD is so powerful, there are no loading screens, so time does become a factor there.
Yeah, but calling it 4D makes it sound like sci-fi.
Yeah, I know, it makes it sound like sci-fi, but this is the thing. Imagine you have an immersive world where where you can basically go completely open world, so you can explore. Say you had a game where you were, say, Just Cause game, right? A Just Cause game where you have a massive island to explore, but you can also not just explore the island, you can go in and out of buildings. You have not just hundreds of characters to interact with, but thousands. It's all there. So you basically, you know when you're in the Yakuza games, the new Yakuza games, the Kiwami ones, and it feels like those sections of Tokyo are inhabited because of just the mass of people and characters, and even though they're like repeated skins of characters, right, of NPCs, even with that, you still feel like the area is populated.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, what I think next gen means now is it's going to be a point where in the previous generations you were playing a game and you hit a wall, you're enjoying it, but you hit a wall and you think, oh yeah, that's right, I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
Those walls that sort of shatter the illusion that you just totally, when you get totally lost in a game, I mean.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about FIFA. You don't think you're some sort of guy in the stands doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
But in generally, when you get lost in a game and you forget you're playing a game until something really gamey happens, like you can't go any further, you hit an invisible wall or something like this.
Yeah.
Those barriers being pushed out of the way.
See,
that's what next gen is for me.
Yeah. See, for me, this next gen that's coming, more so than any other next gen, is one step closer to my dream of basically playing a VR game where I have a world to explore. Not just a game, not just an experience, but an actual world to explore. You know, with its own lore, its own history, stuff like that. However long it takes. But that's what I want from VR gaming. That's what I've always wanted from VR gaming. I don't want a game. I want a world. Because VR gaming can give us that.
I think we're still a generation off that.
And that's what I'm hoping from this next generation of gaming, is that they will take that step forward and they'll start, instead of giving VR experiences, they'll actually start giving us proper games.
There's so many ideas that we had floating around here. It's a little bit higgledy-piggledy, but I think that's kind of the point. Next gen means different things to different people. For every person who thinks that graphics are the be-all and end-all or the next generation thing, there'll be somebody else who wants 120 frames per second, another person who wants 4K, another person who wants, like what I want, the boundaries when you just hit the wall and you think, oh, I'm playing a game to go away, and you who wants this experience of VR to be more of a experience, a real living thing than just I'm playing it for a laugh.
Yeah, basically...
It means so many things to so many different people. There's no, this is what next gen is, and you bloody will like it.
Yeah.
It's...
so
varied.
In amongst all that, there are those people who believe that next gen means the number of flops, teraflops, was it?
That's just marketing spiel. I mean, I fell into it at the beginning, but yeah, it's marketing spiel.
I mean, I'm just like, how many people had to look up what a teraflop was?
Many calculations per second.
I just, teraflops for one moment was like the most searched term on Google.
But that's what I just said was the point, though. Next gen means so many things to so many people, and I think the ones that are really going to come away disappointed are the people who really, really care for graphics, because honestly, I think they're about at the peak of what they can do.
Yeah.
When market companies can do stuff like your Naughty Dogs can, yeah, I think you're about there for peak for what a consumer-grade device can do. I
think that, for me, they've already plateaued. I really don't care about graphics. I only care about the quality of game. Does the game interest me? Does it have an interesting story? Does it have interesting characters? I honestly could not care less about the quality of the graphics, unless it's VR, because with VR, you want the graphics to be a certain level to basically maintain the immersion, but that's it.
And on that, thank you for listening. Check out thegeekshow.co.uk for more stuff we do. Check us out on social media. But until next time, I'm really, really sorry if I offended you, but we are the Impossible Mission. Bye.